Hello Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus signs. Welcome to your tarot reading for the month of November. Please come into this reading with an open heart and an open mind, a desire to learn something or better yourself. If the messages that come through don't resonate for you, that's completely fine. Feel free to push them aside. You may want to revisit them at a later date. You are accountable and responsible for all your own actions and decisions. This is, of course, optional advice, guidance, and energy check-in. That being said, let's try and have some fun and get you some helpful, insightful messages. This is indeed a tarot reading. I'm going to reference a tiny bit of astrology, so if you're down for that, great. The final PS to this is I would highly, highly recommend that you also check out your rising sign in addition to your sun sign. Watch your sun, moon, rising, Venus if you like. But for these rounds of readings for November on my channel, check out your rising sign. That might be more helpful and possibly more accurate. All right, Aries. So bottom of your deck is the Five of Wands. So that can be sort of a fiery, go-get-em, passionate, kind of trailblazing attitude of wanting to go after something and feeling energized to go after it, feeling really motivated and inspired to do something. It can also be a card of conflict and fighting, anger, aggression. It can be a sign of competitions where you need to rise to the occasion and sort of give something your all. Maybe that's a personal goal or maybe that's something at work. So there's a couple different messages to that. We'll see how that factors into your overall tarot reading. All right, so you're showing up as the Queen of Cups, how you're presenting this month. So that's someone who's more in touch with their emotions and possibly maybe feeling a little bit more sensitive or feeling a little bit more vulnerable. But with these two cards, the Moon and the Queen of Cups, possibly more psychic as well. Saturn is going to go direct in your 12th house for my Aries risings. I'm going to assume I'm talking to Aries rising, but again, you're welcome to watch this for your sun sign, but I'm going to be saying Aries rising a lot, so do check out your rising sign. For my Aries rising, Saturn is going to be going direct in your 12th house of spirituality, what is hidden away, what is unseen. It can also be self-undoing. So if you feel like you've had a lot of blocks recently in terms of like maybe your own self-worth or where you want to go in this life, really, there may be, with Saturn going direct, there may be a little bit more clarity on how you want to build and how you want to move forward in life. And, particularly matters where you're struggling with your faith or spirituality in any kind. There may be more of a focus on that. And I'm sort of getting the idea of, with this Moon Pisces energy, the Moon card coming through, metaphorically, it's like understanding that you need to build your own raft so that you don't drown, right? It's like if you're stuck in these ocean waves, right? And it can be overwhelming, right? But, the ocean, it's beautiful, right? It's a place we go to rest and relax. But with that, it can be turbulent, the tides change. With these two cards, it's very watery energy. So why I'm saying this is metaphorically with Saturn moving direct, if it felt like recently there was just a sense of overwhelm and there was a lot of, I'm in the situation, I don't know how to get myself out or dig myself out. With Saturn moving direct, there is going to be progress, but ultimately there is a reminder to you that there's a responsibility for you to be your own advocate. And for you to rise to the occasion and ultimately do the work, right? Saturn is a challenging energy, but wherever it's transiting in our chart, ultimately through that transit period, there is going to be a lot of growth and development on a personal level where we become the master of something. We have more tools because we've put in the time required and necessary in order to grow from it and, build a solid foundation from which we can move forward in the future. So let's see. I feel like there's a decision you're needing to make about the past in terms of if you're going to leave something behind or if you want to continue to grow with it. It seems like you may feel like your growth is stifled in a particular situation. So maybe this has to do with relationships. Maybe this has to do with something at work or in your family. But yeah, I sort of sense this message of sort of needing to turn within and ask yourself who you are and what you want. And I'm sort of getting the idea of understanding and acknowledging and appreciating the fact that you've changed. And that's not a bad thing. But you may be looking around your environment and feeling very lost or agitated or confused or sort of the idea of not being able to relate to the people you're with any longer, even if at one point they were, whatever, good friends or colleagues or even family members, right? There's something about looking around at the people and the space and the environment you're in and deciding, have I graduated from this, or is this something that I can continue to grow with if I make some adaptations and changes that better suit sort of the new journey I'm on. You do have the Wheel of Fortune coming in, which to me it's saying like there's no other choice but to let this evolve and grow and change in a new direction. So that doesn't, again, necessarily mean throwing out the baby with the bathwater, right? There may be a way to incorporate some new changes, some new routines, some new structure in order to make you more happy. It would be good for your mental health, your physical health, possibly your spiritual health, if that makes sense to anyone. But yeah, it's sort of this idea of how can we make it work, and do I have people on my team who are working with me or working against me? Do they support my ideas and my goals and my dreams and my wishes? Because you definitely have a lot of those with the Nine of Cups coming through. Or are they presenting more as an adversary or opposition to what I want? And maybe this is a theme that is going to play out in multiple areas of your life. I have a feeling that's the case. But there is a need to speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. There may be an uncomfortable conversation that's coming to a head, something coming to light, where you feel like when you mention it, the recipient of these messages just don't give you the time of day, or they give you a lot of excuses of why they can't or why it's not a good time. And ultimately, I see you, to be honest, I do sort of sense a bit of an ultimatum here. This idea of, listen, this is the message and this is where I'm at and this is my truth and this is what I believe. So while that might not be comfortable for you to hear, and while that might, differ from your opinion and ideas and how you see me, what light you see me in versus how I see myself and how we want to grow and evolve in this relationship, commitment, contract, etc. Ultimately, it's like, I do think you have some sort of clarity about how you would like to move forward. Even if you are a little bit stuck, there's more assurance, there's more confidence in asking for what you need. And ultimately, the answer you get from this other person in some capacity is going to influence how you choose to move forward. So it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily getting this fear of them controlling you and ultimately sort of, putting your fate and your destiny in the hands of someone else, because I think you realize that you're the owner of your fate and destiny, right? You know this, Aries. And so it's more just the idea of, it's almost like you view it as a courtesy. I'm letting you know that this is what I want and this is what I would like. And either you're with me or you're not. And based on their reaction, their opinion, how they sort of, their retort, if you will, that is going to guide you in how you move forward, excuse me, in the next month or so. All right. So there is going to be a new moon in Scorpio, and this is going to affect your financial sector. So there could be an opportunity for new contracts. Again, a strong focus on sort of mental health in terms of being able to process things on a deep level emotionally, and fears associated with money or with partnership for that matter. But it's not all bad. The new moon says that there is an opportunity. There's an opportunity for something new to take place here, sort of like planting the seeds for something you want to grow in the future. But it is opposed by Uranus, which is the planet of sort of shock and revolution and change and reform and freedom ultimately. So there could be sort of a new contract or an agreement of some sort where it does provide you a little bit more space and breathing room to pursue something you want to do and maybe go in a very different direction, but it might be to grow within a role and sort of branch out into something you're more interested in. I see that being very positive, but with Uranus, we do have to feed that need for the unpredictable and differentiation. Doing the same thing over and over and over, it doesn't seem to be working out. It's like banging your head against a wall. And I think for a lot of you, that may have been the source of some depression or some anxiety of, I'm not getting where I want to go. I feel like I'm being pigeonholed to this role or this title or being this person in a relationship. And so I think in a very positive light, you're seeing that there's actually a lot more opportunity out there for you. There's a lot more things you can do and people you can be, so to say, right? I almost see this as sort of an expansion of becoming the best version of yourself and understanding your own values and skills and assets and looking at that as this is what I can offer you. It's not so much, pleading with someone, what can you offer me to make my life better? It's coming in being sort of like this almost like this entrepreneurial spirit of selling yourself in a way where there is just this newfound confidence and clarity about what you're hoping to achieve. And so you can make sort of the stepping stones of how to get there. You can plan them out anyway. So there might be a lot more focus on collaborations and team efforts. But again, with kind of this Mars energy and Uranus energy, also having that freedom to break away and do your own thing. So maybe there's elements of this that are extremely collaborative and creative for that matter. But maybe you get final say of sort of the creative control here. There's something important about that coming through. There could be a little bit of confusion about money and payments. And so there might be an important conversation where things come to a head and people are ultimately confronted about this issue just because there's been a lack of clarity. Or again, I'm sensing maybe with a boss, someone who is just, it's never the right time for them to discuss the payment or the raise or the promotion. And I do think it comes to a head, and a very necessary one, where you're like, hey, listen, where are we at here? Like, we have to discuss this. And I do see this really cool kind of thrust into this more empowered state for you. Something that may be a conversation that you were dreading or beating your head against a wall and not sure how to approach this person. And I have to be tactful and diplomatic, but I don't want to mute what I'm actually feeling and thinking. Ultimately, I think the universe is orchestrating this in a way where it's going to come to a head, and you don't need to be afraid to, quote unquote, fight for what you believe in. I think you're going to fight with your words, and you're going to you're going to hold firm to your beliefs because you ultimately are valuing yourself. And I think that's important. And this might be a connection, especially a business one, where you're starting to understand that you guys are no longer on the same page and not in alignment. And so however this, I will say with Mars-Uranus kind of explosive conversation goes, it might be the freedom and the liberation you really needed, and the universe is just kind of nudging you in that direction. There will be a difference of opinion. With this, there is kind of this, I'm not sure anyone is going to be wholly satisfied or wholly pleased if they continue to collaborate together, but you may find those solutions over time. So I wouldn't expect Cinderella stories, but with Uranus, there is a absolute necessity to break away. And by that, I'm sort of getting this idea of things are never going to be the same in this relationship. It might be sort of the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of a relationship that already needed some mending and repairing, and maybe people choose to sever the tie with Mars energy and go their own way because it's causing more strife and anxiety than ultimately harmony and joy and positive collaborations. Others of you, this extreme, maybe extreme isn't the right word, but this absolute breaking point, this confrontation, it may actually allow you both to kind of breathe new life into this collaboration. But I will say, it won't be the same. It's going to have to go in a different direction in order for it to grow and thrive. That's what that new moon energy wants with Uranus involved. So we're planting the seeds of something completely new and different, but maybe it is within the same partnership or the same business or something like that. Let's see. So there is going to be a full moon in your third house. So very likely a story involving a sibling with the Six of Cups here coming through is going to come to light, going to come to a head. There could be some sort of epiphany or culmination or just more visibility, right? Especially in your third house, which has to do with mental energy and your perception, your ability to see things more clearly with a sibling and maybe bring some sort of peace and resolution to it. Now that full moon is going to still be challenged and a little bit aggravated with with some Piscean energy. So this idea of, it could even, I think for a lot of you it has to do with siblings. It may also have to do with some sort of education matter, but that's sort of the secondary story here. There is some sort of aggravation or thorn in the side here where it's in the process of healing, but it does bring up a lot of past triggers that I think maybe some of you Aries risings have held on to for a long time and never really been able to work through it. That's where Saturn is going to come to your benefit. It's not necessarily a storyline that you're sharing with a sibling or a close partner here. But it's sort of like this need to do the work individually in order to sort of gut out the closet, look at the skeletons in the closet, look them in the eye and be like, you don't have power over me anymore. This isn't going to be something that I dread or that I fear or that I'm afraid to confront. And ultimately, I'm sort of getting that idea of that saying, it's like, forgiveness is not justifying what people have done to you. It's ultimately about bringing your own self some inner peace, and the idea of sort of live and let live. You can't change this person, and I think there's an acceptance that you may be on very different pages, but it doesn't mean there can't be some sort of companionship or possibly love, right? Family. Or it might just be one of those relationships where it's never living up to this ideal standard that you would hope for, being best friends with your sibling or your cousin or your neighbor, but you're both at a place where you're able to see the other person's perspective more clearly and maybe make some minor adjustments in how you deal with the situation so that it doesn't impact you negatively. You do have the Wheel of Fortune coming up in your house of dating, which is fabulous. So particularly in Sagittarius season, there could be a lot more communication between a dating prospect you may be getting on dating apps. You probably are expressing yourself in a more lighthearted, but also passionate, enthusiastic, flirtatious manner. There could be a connection with a water sign, Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, or possibly a Sagittarius. It could be a multitude of different signs, but dating looks like there could be something positive coming through. And especially as Mars moves into Sagittarius, Mars is the planet of sex, quite frankly, right? So there could be an expansion or an increase in your sex drive or sexual relationship. In terms of long-term relationships and those that might be more quote unquote serious or exclusive, so possibly a marriage partner or someone that you're with, and again in a more kind of solidified way, we'll put it that way. You're going to have Venus moving through your 7th house of partnership, and anytime Venus is making a transit, in theory, that area of life is going to be a little bit more comfortable. It's going to be a time where you're seeking to make connections and link with other people, and kind of enjoy life a little bit more. Venus is the planet of pleasure, of seeing value in ourselves and others, and especially in our relationships. And you also have the 8 of Pentacles showing up there. So if you're willing to do the work, and actually I'm going to phrase this a couple ways. Some of you've been doing the work in a long-term relationship where, again, maybe there was sort of a need for radical transformation in how you approach this person and the relationships and maybe the language you speak. There was a transitional period, but Venus is going to be trining Pluto. So ultimately it's sort of being able to get rid of all the things that aren't helping us in this relationship and make room for the good stuff, and really leaning into the pleasure and the fun and enjoyment that you have with this person. Now, do understand this could resonate for you in terms of a business partner or a business contractor, someone you're, a client, something with Venus coming through. You may have Venus brings a more feminine energy, right? So there could be a new female arriving in your life that you're going to have some sort of strong partnership with. And for those who are interested in males, that Venus energy could indicate that it's a little bit more softer. It's a little bit more, we did say sensitive with the Queen of Cups, so I'm going to go back to that. But putting in the work pays off, and a lot of you, it feels like your relationship is going through a very positive transformation. The one... I wanted to use the word like kickback to that is eventually Venus is going to conjunct the South Node. And so there will reach a point in the next month or so in your relationship where you are asked to release something that is no longer serving you guys as a partnership. So it could be a habit, a behavior, something that ultimately, if you want this relationship to grow and thrive, Wheel of Fortune, there is some sort of sacrifice you're going to have to make. But overall, it's going to be very positive. There could be the discussion of children with the sun factoring into this. There could be more of a creative spirit, or again, like a creative collaboration that is going to present itself in the coming months. What else? And I guess to wrap up, I'm going to reiterate, don't be afraid of confrontation this month, because ultimately I do see you needing to clear the air with people so that one or both people aren't suffering in silence, or feeling like they're being muted. I think that's important, not feeling like your voice is heard. The Page of Swords, to me, I reiterate, you got to speak up even if your voice shakes. The Page of Swords, we sometimes see ourselves as less than, or not as intelligent, or not as skilled, or not as knowledgeable, but that shouldn't matter if you're fighting to have your value be seen and acknowledged. And I do get sort of a long time coming and someone not really acknowledging all that you've contributed and offered, especially in terms of your knowledge and level of expertise and sort of the day in, day out daily routine. You're bringing a lot to the plate, and I don't think that's always appreciated and acknowledged. And something has to come to a head here again for ultimate transformation. And I do see that happening. But particularly in terms of money, there could be a new door that opens because of a confrontation that maybe wasn't the most pleasant. But do have faith that you do have to stick to your guns. Because what is the ultimate goal in mind? With the Nine of Cups coming up here, especially with Pluto, there's a powerful dream here. There's a powerful vision. And so if someone isn't on your team, rooting you on, supporting you, helping to advise or help guide you when you ask for it, especially if that person is in a mentor role, then it's like you're either with me or you're against me. There is no kind of middle ground. Like either you support me or you don't. And that might be a struggle, especially with your family unit as well, particularly with parents. I'm getting the idea of, I think some of you know that your parents talk about you behind your back. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it's this idea of, they're doing their best to pretend that they are on board with your dream and your future and your goals. But there is something very traditional and maybe very stubborn about their approach and sort of this, you have to do it the way it's always been done. And, with Uranus making contact in your money and financial sector, which also impacts your work, there's something about, nope, that doesn't work for me. I'm doing it completely different. I'm taking the road less traveled. And so maybe this Five of Wands is that internal struggle, that grappling of moving away from the energy of people pleasing and just owning who you are and what you want and stepping into that spotlight to bring your dreams to light. That's what I see for you, Aries. All right, thanks for joining me today, guys. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you very soon for more tarot. Bye.